Welcome to another episode of our personal empowerment audio program, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder. And our program today is about silver linings, about finding the adversity and opportunity to find something special. Silver linings, I've noticed as I do my paradise thinking, that is releasing my negative thoughts with a breath and embracing my positive thoughts. All the thoughts I have feeling good that way allow me to see opportunities, allow me to see silver linings almost everywhere I look.
These are really tough times. Don't really know when in time you're listening to this program, but it's being released. We're recording and releasing this program in February of 2009, and the stimulus package has come out of conference committee and is about to be passed. And well, Steve and I have just been chatting a little bit about how difficult it is for so many people right now and how scary it is for really everybody that has a job, per se, that needs an industry or a corporation or a larger business to support them. And even individuals who are self-employed or professional people, everybody's got a little anxiety right now. And I think it'd be foolish not to consider the seriousness of the situation. But at the same time, there are certain principles of psychology or philosophy or metaphysics, however you happen to look at it. There is opportunity here. Anytime there's change, I guess the first thing you notice is the bad part. What goes south, what falls apart, what isn't working. But, there's got to be a balance point to that. There's got to be some good, some silver lining in that dark cloud.
Well, that's, the stimulus package is supposed to bring back the 3 million jobs we just lost. I mean, that's the balance, that's supposed to come out of this thing. And the bottom line is, with opportunity, with adversity, silver linings are there. But I think what's most important to understand about silver linings is that once in a while they appear to us, like they just pop, they should show up. But they can be found. They can be sought. They can be mined. You can go look for silver linings. You can like dig into situations and create what can I make out of this, So silver linings to a person who is looking for them appear regularly in our lives. The worst things that happen sometimes bring us the greatest opportunities for growth. I know that's always been true in my relationship. When we face the hardest times, the most difficult things, we always come out of that closer, deeper, stronger than ever before. So I think, economically and fiscally, no matter what, silver linings are there. I mean, even in the most desperate of economic times, a silver lining I heard this morning is that financial contributions to terrorist organizations are way, way down.
Did you really? You didn't just make that up?
No, I heard that on the radio today.
I think what you're saying is really smart. The idea that if let's say economic times are great, not really wonderful, but certainly not as dire as what we're facing. And I'm bored with my job and I'm looking for an opportunity. Rather than look only at other people's successes, wouldn't it be smart to look where there's a problem? To look for the opportunity where somebody has a need that isn't being met. And as the economy consolidates, as fewer and fewer companies own everything, then what is it that those huge companies are not doing for their customers that we could provide? I mean, to look where it's darkest to find the dawn is really, really smart, I think.
It really is. And, the opportunity to find the problem that can be healed, the need that can be met. I mean, think about it. That's really what opportunity is. Opportunity is looking for a problem that needs to be met and meeting that problem. That's what opportunity really is. So we have an opportunity to impact with opportunity. We can take a look at the new problems that are appearing in people's lives, the new kinds of issues they're dealing with, and find ways to solve human problems. You can go look for a job. There are hopefully lots more that are going to be starting to happen now. That's an option, and a very good one, I think, and that's one of the things that Obama is bringing with his hope is the opportunity for jobs. But this is also an opportunity if you've lost your job or you've been, underemployed, to go and create something unique and special. There's lots of possibilities out there, lots of needs that need to be met. So this is probably the best time to go consider finding a need and meeting it in a unique way.
I'm thinking about my love for Emerson's book on self-reliance, because that's a great concept, self-reliance. And I heard Obama talking just the other day about the fact that while we can respect that virtue, self-reliance, at the same time, we can balance it with a sense of community responsibility, helping each other. And it's not an either or. And I took this big breath and I just, wow, the adults are back in charge. You know, it's not black and white. There's somebody that sees a third option or a middle way. Um, Sometimes liberals get criticized for being too wishy-washy, too nebulous, but that's because they're looking in the middle. I mean, a liberal arts education teaches you to look for choices and opportunities. Our theme today, the silver linings. They have to. Actually, you know, I'm going to tell a little story about this. The great conservative Ronald Reagan had a joke that he used to love to tell. Somebody even wrote a book with this as a title because Reagan just told it over and over again. And you know the story, Steve. It's about the pessimistic boy and the optimistic boy. Supposedly they're doing research at some major university, and they put the pessimistic boy in a room full of brand new toys and let him loose. Say, we'll be back in an hour. We're going to, of course, they watched him on the camera, but you play with these new toys. And then the optimistic boy, they took him down the hall and they put him in a room full of horse manure. And they came back in a couple of hours. And, of course, the pessimistic kid was still grumpy and negative, and he'd broken a bunch of the toys, and some of them weren't even opened. And he was whining and complaining about them being all the wrong toys. And so they go down to the room where they're observing the optimistic boy, and he's digging through all the horse manure. And they say, well, what are you doing, And he says, are you kidding? With all this horse shit, there's got to be a pony in here someplace. And Reagan loved it. I've always loved the story, too. It's not a liberal or a conservative story. It's just, yeah, in the midst of all of this stuff that's coming down, there's got to be an opportunity. What's more American than that? Being enterprising and having the freedom, the liberty, really, to pursue an interest because you got a great idea. You said it a minute ago. Find a human need and meet it. I think of Zig Ziglar when I think of that phrase.
Yeah.
I don't know if he gets credit or not for that, but we'll give him credit. Find a human need and meet it, and there's never been a better time. Look around at what needs to be done.
But that's the key. Look around. Don't expect to see. Take active charge of the pursuit of the silver linings. Take active charge of the pursuit of the opportunities that are out there that you need to look for. Now, how do you look for silver linings? I think there's really a couple of very different and wonderful ways that you can look for silver linings. One is a logical mental kind of process, which is, okay, what are the problems that people are facing out there, and what would the solutions be, and what could take us from point A to point B? What can I do to facilitate the solution to this problem that I see logically? And the other way to search for silver linings is the other kind of thinking, the intuitive kind of thing. You sit back and think, what would be a cool silver lining, and just let the thoughts bubble and drift. But you're intentionally saying to the mind, hey, come up with some silver linings for me. I'm looking for them now. It's a process of either seeking them with the logical mind or allowing them to be found with the intuitive one.
I think another important tip along these lines is be careful of the temptation to put it off because you have to do something else right now to make a lot of money right now or even make a little bit of money right now, and so you keep putting it off. Do both. Anytime you find yourself in an either-or position mentally, it's just stress and anxiety, take a breath and breathe into the middle of that and say, well, maybe I could do both. Maybe it's this and that rather than this or that. So that the opportunity that you find that you're going to research further and perhaps develop, you can do in your spare time. Set aside an hour a day or a few hours on the weekend to work on this project. And don't get caught up in, well, I'd have to give up everything that I've got that's a sure thing to take a risk on this. It's not necessarily everything or nothing. Consider doing it all and just being good at organizing your time and creating priorities.
Figuring out, ways to do things different or ways to do different things. You can take what you do and figure out, okay, what's a more effective, efficient, elegant way of doing what I do so that it gives me more time or it gives me more energy or it gives me more money or it gives me more value. Or you can imagine what's a different thing to do, something you've not been doing, something you can do not do differently, but something different to do, make things better or make better things, two different kinds of creativity. So I think it's real important in this time of great opportunity to allow yourself to listen for it knocking. That is to quiet the mind. We always talk about how important it is to quiet the mind, but now opportunity's knocking, and if the mind's real busy, it may not hear it. So now's the time to quiet the mind and listen for the opportunities that are knocking. And the opportunities may come in the area of finance. There's lots of opportunities in terms of money right now. Money is really, somehow a huge amount of money just got lost, and it's somewhere, and
somebody's got that money.
It's somewhere, and somehow it's going to
do something.
It's going to bounce back in the other direction, because at least history has told us every time it went one way, it always came back the other way. So
the richest people in the world, who ever have all this money now, they can't put it in a mattress. They've got to do something with it, right? They got to move it. And the markets are a little risky, even for the super, super rich. So again, that money is out there. It's real important that we keep that. And if they run short, they'll print more.
And the value of the companies, also, that's so subjective. That's just in people's minds. Like, how much is IBM worth, or how much is Apple worth? One day it's worth this much, and the next day it's worth that. That's also, it's going to go back in the other direction. And it's the bottom line is, like, which direction can it go? Once it's hit bottom, it goes back up. Now, maybe it hasn't hit bottom. Maybe it's got a little farther to go down. Who knows? But once it hit bottom, it's got to go back up. And that's not only true in terms of finances, but that's true in terms of world peace. We've come to the point now where we got as warlike as I think America, I'm hoping, dreaming, praying, will ever get. And we're now bouncing back and becoming much more peaceful of a nation. We're trying to tone down this war. We're trying to figure out a way of ending that war. We're trying to become a world that is peaceful, more peaceful than it's ever been before. It's not our intention to go invade foreign countries if we don't have to now. And so things are changing. It's bouncing. It's a pendulum. It swings all the way that far that way. It's got to come back the other way. That's the silver lining in the world right now. It just went so far in the other direction, it had to start swinging back.
I'm sitting here listening to you, Steve, and I'm trying to decide, where does the idea that change is going to stop now come from? And I think it's emotional. I think it's the emotional nature that says whatever you're feeling now, it's never going to change. It's going to be like this all the time. And that leads to a way of thinking that then rationalizes or confirms that or tries to justify that pre-existing feeling. So if you say to yourself, well, look at the change that got us here, why would it suddenly stop? Doesn't everything cycle? Isn't everything have a pendulum swing in it? A little of this and a little of that, an in-breath and out-breath, round and rounds, a season to it. So knowing that, we can affirm that if things are going really, really well, there's got to be some change, maybe lateral, maybe it'll take a dip, and maybe we'll find an opportunity in that. But in the same way, if things are looking really scary and bad, well, then they can only get better. Like that old Beatles song, can't get no worse. It's got to get better. And it's like you say, Steve, I got this from you. Positive thinking is not thinking only positive thoughts. It's doing positive things with all of your thoughts.
And we call that paradise thinking now. And that's the bottom line. That it's all rooted in fear. The fear that things are going to last forever, like you said, or even the fear that things are going to get worse than this. So we hold on to they're going to last forever because that's less dangerous than they're going to get worse. What we need to do is the kind of thinking that allows us to release that fear, to embrace the idea that I want to feel that fear. It's impeding me. It's holding me back. It's inside of me, and I don't want it inside of me. I want to bring it up. I want to allow it to emerge from my life. I want to feel the fear, and then I want to diffuse it by confusing it by feeling safe while I'm experiencing it. While I experience the fear, then I take one slow, conscious, deep breath while I'm experiencing that fear, and all of a sudden the fear doesn't have the power to make me want to hit or run anymore. All of a sudden the fear is now confused. It feels safe to have that fear, and if the fear feels safe, it's not scary. It just loses its power. It diffuses the energy. And every time you experience the fear and breathe into it, release it, then you diffuse it even more. And even if you never get rid of all of the fear, just the idea that it's less now and it'll be less next time, lets go of the biggest part of the fear, which is it's going to last forever at this level or it's going to get worse.
Yeah, yeah. And so challenge yourself when you find that voice coming up, whether it occurs to you that it's mental or, in fact, emotional. Things will never, ever change. It's like depression, you know. Every time you've been depressed, like most people anyway, it's a passing thing. And yet, doesn't depression come with an affect of, this will never end. I will always feel this sadness. And you never do. I mean, there is such a thing as chronic depression, but everybody goes through periods of melancholia. I think we make things worse also when we ask the question, what'll I do? What would I do? What should I do? Because do you know what you want? Do you know the outcome? Often the reason we don't know what to do is we don't know where we're headed. And it's a better question. Maybe when you say to yourself, I don't know what to do, I wish I knew what to do, you're really asking for a goal or a destination or an outcome. But the brain's not going to second guess you. If that's the question you ask yourself, then that's what's going to come to mind. Well, you're never going to know what to do if you don't know where you're going to end up. Or you have to have a goal before you can have a direction. How could you have a direction if you didn't have a goal? Then what you're limited to is avoiding what you don't want rather than moving toward what you do want. And avoiding what you do not want is not a goal. It's good to get you going. It'll get you off dead center. It might get you out of the rut, but you might run right into another rut, out of the frying pan into the fire. I'll mix all my metaphors here. At some point, even if you take an initial leap of running away from what you want to avoid or what you don't want, hey, as soon as possible, don't we have to reorient toward what we do want and have a goal in mind if we're going to know what to do?
Yeah, whenever you're in the process of avoiding what you don't want, therefore thinking about the problem, it's called worry. Whenever you do that, silver linings disappear. They do not appear on your radar screen when you're in the worry process. The only time silver linings appear on your radar screen is if you're blank and you're hit with them, you're thunderstruck with them, or if you seek them. Whenever you're in the worry or anxiety process, whenever you're enwrapped in that, there's just no room for that kind of paradise thinking. So really the most important key is to be in a state to be able to seek the silver linings. Now that means two things. We talked about one of them, which is when you have the negative thoughts, the fear thoughts, the anger thoughts, the anxiety feelings, then you experience them. You don't push them back down. You experience them, let them come up, and as you feel them, you breathe. They can't hurt you if you breathe into them. In fact, they lose their power. And then the other thing is when you do have a paradise thought, a silver lining kind of thought, a golden opportunity kind of thought, the part of your mind that goes, nah, what you have to do with that part of your mind is go, thank you for sharing, but right now I'm listening to the possibility part of my mind, not the it's impossible part of my mind. I appreciate that part of you that says all the reasons why it can't happen, and we'll put you right on hold for a moment. But what we need to listen to right now is the one that says maybe it can happen. That's where silver linings appear on the radar screen.
Not sure where it came from, but there's this odd bias in our culture that somehow thinking negatively is more realistic than thinking positively. Focusing on the problem is somehow more realistic, we're told, than dreaming up solutions. Get your head out of the clouds, stop dreaming, get your feet down on the ground, and be realistic. It's almost like pessimism is realistic. The pessimist will say, I'm not a pessimist, I'm not being negative, I'm being realistic. Well, maybe, but the truth certainly lies between the extremes. It always does. I think it's important for us to be positive in response to the negativity around us. We get to choose what we do with the situation we're in. We may not have much choice over finding ourselves in this situation. Maybe we created it, maybe we contributed to it, Maybe we were blindsided or victimized by it, but by golly, I know we can choose our response. In fact, we can even choose our attitude about it, our perception, and what we do with it. It's what we do with the situation we find ourselves in that matters. That's what life is about, not just looking at the part that's done to us, but what are you going to do? Life is what you make it.
And that's where the silver linings come in, You can keep looking at the clouds, but the truth is, if you think about it, where are the silver linings on the cloud? They're way out at the edges, I mean, you can't just stay stuck in the middle of your cloud and find those silver linings. You've got to explore. You've got to stretch yourself. You've got to go out to the edges. And so one of the secrets to silver lining is try some new kind of thinking here. Let yourself explore beyond the rational. Let yourself go beyond that voice, the voice that says, no, don't go any farther than that because it's not going to happen. It's not possible. Let that voice be quiet for a moment and go someplace with your thinking you've never let yourself go before. Imagine yourself being someone, doing something, becoming some kind of a way that you've never allowed yourself to do before. Stretch yourself. Because now, again, in terms of the times, the adversity is the great weight, and therefore lifting that great weight builds stronger muscles. There's no greater opportunity to build strong muscles than great adversity, great weight. So here's the opportunity to stretch yourself. In the wake of these difficult times, imagine your life better than it is in some way. In the area of finances, in the area of your relationships with your primary people in your life, in the area of your health, in the area of your ways of dealing at work, whatever it is. But imagine a silver lining coming out of this difficult time. You've grown, you've learned, you've awakened, and in that awakening, you discover some potential within you to become even more than you've ever been.
And if you've seen that opportunity and you're not taking action on it, then what are you waiting for? I have the fellow became a friend of mine, actually. He's a photographer in the Los Angeles area who used to be a meat cutter. And he came to me and asked me to do some career work with him because he was tired of being a meat cutter. It was okay when he was young, but what he really wanted to do was photography. This is like 10 minutes into our first session. And I said, what are you waiting for? And we spent the rest of the session talking about why he was waiting, why he wasn't taking any even baby steps toward it. And it was the only session we ever did. I mean, the whole session was, well, what are you waiting for? I just, in a sense, got to play this cool role of giving him permission to start, to go. I wonder how many of our listeners now are in that very situation. They know what we're talking about. They see that silver lining here or maybe even in a couple of places in their lives, and they're standing on the verge of getting it on. What are you waiting for?
The picture that just came to my mind was the eagle's nest with the little baby eagle and the mama eagle pushing him out of the nest and saying, fly, fly. It is time. There's no better time to fly. There's no greater opportunity in your whole life than to take a major step now. Because as we said, all the recession part, it's not recession, it's not depression, it's succession. We've left a way behind. We're finding a more successful way to succeed the old way. So now's the time. Get on the bandwagon, jump with the hope energy, and grab a hold, because you'll find silver linings. But again, to find the silver linings, you have to go out to the edges. You have to stretch out to the places you haven't spent a whole lot of time yet. What was that wonderful line? You'll find the best parts of yourself in the places that you are most afraid to look.
Yeah. And I'm also thinking of I'm real sure it's a Ray Bradbury quote, but it doesn't sound like him. He said, you've got to take a leap of faith. He says, you got to jump off the cliff and then grow wings on the way down.
That sounds good to me. As long as you stop, look, and listen before you take that step, Sometimes, You don't
want to be reckless.
Exactly.
Leaps of faith are good, but they have to be at the appropriate time in a balanced way. Again, stay off the poles. This is not an everything or a nothing deal.
Yeah. So the idea is, you said it this way, throw your heart over the fence and the horse will follow. The idea is now's the time to become optimistic about this stuff. Now's the time. You see the pendulum swinging back. You feel the energy changing. We're going from losing jobs to gaining jobs. We're going from feeling hopeless to feeling hopeful. Now's the time to get into this energy. You're not alone. There's millions and millions of people out there who are starting to feel the same way as you are. So now's the time to look for those silver silver linings. And again, the two ways to do that. First thing is to actually seek them. Like, think about it. Read the newspapers. Talk to people. Find out what are those human needs that are being not met right now by the giant corporations downsizing. And 3 million jobs, 3 million people who served us are not serving us anymore. There must be something missing in our lives, from all those people that used to help us out. And also, make stuff up. We're all graduates of MSU. Make stuff up. Take some time and imagine, dream, envision, because now's the time that new ideas are going to be really, really valuable. As you said, there's all that money out there and they don't know what to do with it. Well, backing new ideas is one of the things that people tend to do with that kind of money.
Yeah, show somebody how you can make them a lot of money. How? By providing something people really, really need. The whole idea of being a capitalist, or better said, an enterprising individual or an entrepreneur, has been tainted or tarnished in the last decade or so. A lot of people think that everything having to do with money or investment or industry or manufacturing is all evil and all bad. And what we're talking about is human commerce, right? And it has its extremes. But I tell you, and I feel strongly about this, something to consider here is voluntary simplicity, finding a balance. The idea of more, consuming more, buying more, using it up sooner and throwing it away, the story of stuff, the disposable society, landfills filling up. We need to take another look at that. And of course not consider that the only alternative is to go back to a 19th century lifestyle. It's a balance. Voluntary simplicity is, how do I get a little bit closer to the land? And along with that, voluntary simplicity is the idea of appropriate technology. That's another thing. Like, do you really need an electric can opener right now? Could you unplug that thing? And certainly not buy an electric can opener. Maybe that would be an area where you could save a little bit of energy, you see. Things are all coming together. The war, that was one of the big reasons that Barack Obama was elected, because of his position on the war, is largely about oil and energy, the very substance that's creating global warming. So here are these three issues. War, the energy crisis, our reliance on foreign oil, and global warming are all part of one process. There's certainly a lot of opportunity here all around that thing.
So to look to find opportunities in the fields of energy, in the fields of meeting people's needs in those ways, is a real smart thing to start doing. And again, a lot of money, I imagine, is going to be available. Obama has said so in those particular fields of science. But what's most important is for you to get in touch with your gifts, talents, and abilities to discover what you can best offer to people. Because there's two sides to the equation. There's finding a human need and meeting it, and there's also finding your talents and how they match up with those needs. So it's the introspective part of the thing that I think people miss out on. It's fascinating when you ask people, like, well, what do you really want to be great at? They go, well, I haven't really ever thought about that. It's really important to ask the question, what do I want to excel at? What do I want to become masterful at? Because that's where you get to identify those gifts, talents, and abilities. And then the more you know about those things that you have gifts at, the more likely silver linings are going to appear to you. The more likely you'll be able to see how you can match your talent with that need.
I'd like to go a step farther with this even and suggest that there are lots of us that feel a kind of a cosmic wind at our backs. We feel supported by life as if, well, yeah, there is the yin and yang of things. There are the seasons and the cyclic nature of all things. There's highs and lows and good and bad in everybody's life, no question about it. But that overall, there's something about life. It wants to grow. It wants to heal. It wants to unfold. And I think we benefit from that. When we tune into that, when we say, well, in the randomness of all things, maybe there is an order, and I feel that, and I feel supported by that, and given that good things and bad things are going to happen. Nevertheless, generally, I feel this urge to good, to improvement. Our new president likes to quote Martin Luther King, saying that the moral arc or arch of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. In other words, there's a larger principle to life, and I think that if you consider it, if you tune into it, if you aspire to it, that you can feel it. You can feel supported, such that the answer to the question, what do we do? Oh no, what now? Well, what's going to happen is to take it a day at a time. If that's too much in a crisis, take it an hour at a time, or even one breath at a time. But say to yourself and say to your kids and say to your parents and say to your friends, we're going to be okay. We're going to get through these difficult times. You may even want to be honest and say, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we always have, and we're going to pull together, we're going to work together, we're going to be a family in this, and we're going to network with our friends and our community in this. We're going to live a little more simply, voluntarily. We're going to be a little more appropriate in our use of technology and energy. We're going to reach out, work together, support each other, and we'll get through this. That attitude is more than positive. It's a positive attitude that aligns with a sense of destiny being this generally growthful thing.
Because as Paul Simon said, the thought that life could be better is woven indelibly into our hearts and our brains.
It would seem, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's there. The belief that it's going to get better is in there, I think we get in the way of it. Optimism is our natural state of being. That life's going to get better is our natural state of being. It's we wear ourselves down with our pessimism, with our lack of trusting in our optimistic nature. Now, again, there's just a couple of things involved here. One is going out there and exploring the universe and matching it to your gifts, talents, and abilities. See, like, what are the problems out there? What are the needs out there? And what are my gifts, talents, and abilities? And how do they match? And then there's going to boldly go where you've never gone before and go out to the edges where the silver linings exist and start to imagine and start to dream and start to pretend that things are different than they are. Start to play with the stretching of your imagination. Start to make stuff up in brand new ways, because you never know where that might lead. The path to improvement is straight, but genius follows a very crooked path. It goes off in all kinds of directions. William Blake, I think, was the one that gets credit for that one.
Well, let's give you a practical example as kind of evidence that we practice what we preach, or we at least try to. Steve and I found an opportunity in a major screw-up last week. I messed up an editing job. I don't know exactly how it happened, but I left in a part that I was supposed to cut out. Lots of times in the middle of our recording of these sessions, Steve and I will stop and we'll check in with each other and we'll, do you want to go here? Do you want to go there? Or the phone rings and I forgot to unplug it. And we edit all that stuff out. Well, I missed one last week. And so we've turned that into an opportunity, haven't we?
Indeed. The silver lining is this: from now on, I'm going to listen to them first before anybody else gets to. Because you really shouldn't proofread your own stuff, and you don't have to do this alone. I mean, obviously, Michael doesn't do this alone, but the editing he does. I mean, he and I sit down, we do these recordings, and then when it's done, he sits down and he edits the whole thing all by himself. And he's always done a great job. I think in 60 episodes, he made one tiny little mistake before this one. This time he left a chunk in, and I heard it and I went, whoa, wait a minute, is that just... is that just mine? No, I guess everybody that's been listening heard that one. Oops. But the silver lining is that here's an opportunity to create a greater opportunity for teamwork. And, as I listen to it before anyone else does, we'll make sure that we don't make those kind of mistakes again. There is a silver lining. It's embarrassing, but there is a silver lining.
Well, it's a great thing to have something to do with my guilt. I can put it into, oh, well, anyway, at least we learned something, and I don't feel quite so bad about it.
And I guess we can fix it so that future people who want to get this one will get it without that.
Well, all the radio that you and I have done, it was never an issue because we were always live.
That's true.
And if we can figure out a way to get this quality of sound live on the internet, we'll do it. But right now, so-called internet radio or podcasts or audio blogs or whatever, we've got to pre-record them. Either that or do it over the telephone, and you know how that sounds. Anyway, enough of the inside story. For me, the point is simply that we believe these principles work and we're using them in our lives whenever possible. And that's all we really have to share with you is what we find works in our lives. And we've dedicated ourselves, Steve and I both, for more than 3.5 decades now, to the whole idea of what helps people grow, what helps individuals to understand themselves better, to discover the truth of who they are. When you make a conscious, deliberate decision to shift your life from searching for comfort to being a better and better problem solver, you'll find grace and elegance. You'll find that wind at your back that we talked about. You are an agent of change. You are a problem solver. And we let the advertisers talk us into believing that what life is about is getting to a place of comfort and then holding on. Well, there's no adventure in comfort. There's not a whole lot of fun, at least for very long, in comfort. It's really not a very dynamic goal or set of goals. It really doesn't leave you feeling fulfilled. I like comfort. I love it, but it's not a destination. It's for periods of recovery and relaxation. How about being a better problem solver? How about creating more success in your life for the purpose of helping other people be more and more successful in their lives? Now you're approaching fulfillment. And that opportunity, I dare say, is always at hand.
Indeed. So the two basic directions to go is to the logical mind, which allows you to see how your talents, gifts, and abilities match up with the needs that you see out there in the world, and to your intuitive mind to allow yourself to explore the edges, the fringes, the possibilities, and allow that critical voice that says, oh, you can't, oh, it's impossible, to be quiet for a time, to get that voice out of the way and let the possibility kind of thinking happen. And that's only possible when you're living a life of paradise thinking, when you're feeling safe. So that means every thought you think, the positive ones you embrace, the negative ones you breathe into and release, so every thought makes you feel safe. The thoughts never can hurt you unless you let them. If you breathe into thoughts, they become impotent. So you have the power. Bring the thoughts up. Think the negative thoughts, the thoughts that I can't, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy. Let them come up. Feel the feelings of frustration and anger and fear, and let them come up. And breathe the power out of them. Just breathe the power out of them. And then allow yourself to do some silver lining thinking. Allow yourself to do some silver lining mining. Go looking for the stuff. Go seek the opportunities. Go explore the possibilities, because yes, silver linings occasionally appear on the horizon. They occasionally burst into your lives, but boy, there's a lot more of them out there if you go look. Opportunity knocks a lot more often if you turn off the noise and you listen.
And you may not have to go very far. There's a great story I'm thinking of that's sometimes told about a fellow that goes all over the world looking for his fortune and looking for fame and success, and only when he comes home at the end of this 30 or 40-year quest does he discover that there's diamonds buried in his front yard. He's been living on a diamond mine, and he left it. It might be right under your nose.
I heard that same story, except he came home and married the girl next door. He looked all over the world for the right woman, and he came home and married the girl next door.
Well, I knew it
sort of the same, different story, but same story.
Had something to do with diamonds.
Both stories are making the same point. That is that sometimes we think we need to journey far and out, but reality often is that we have to stay home and journey in.
So, Steve, let's do an audio journey, and we'll install some of these principles at a real powerful level in paradise. Yeah,
we're going to talk about taking the negative and turning into the positive. It's often called reframing in neurolinguistic programming technologies. The bottom line is it's finding the lemons and squeezing them over lobster. So let's start with the same way we always start to find paradise, and that is a process of relaxation, closing your eyes, and taking a deep breath. So allow those three things to occur. Allow the body to begin to relax, releasing muscular tension as you take a deep breath, allowing your eyes to close, and as you release, find that place of paradise, that place of perfect peace.
Throughout your body, from head to toe, create and sense a feeling of letting go. Softening like butter on a warm day. Feeling so safe, so wonderfully relaxed. Take another slow, deep breath. And as you exhale, go limp, go loose like a rag doll. Drop your guard. Lower your defenses. Remind yourself, for the next few minutes, there's nothing to guard against, no need to defend yourself. Feel open and receptive.
And as you feel open and receptive, your intention in your mind becomes clear. You are looking for a silver lining. You're making one appear. It's something that you can manifest. It's something that you can create. It's something that you can find in your mind. It's a way to make something great. There's a lot of people out there who need. There's a lot of ways that you can lead, that you can find something to make people's lives work. Relax, release. This is not a lot of work. Just allow your mind to contemplate a silver lining that you can find. Yeah, times are tough. Things are hard. But the solution's here. It'll become clear. And you'll know. One step, just one step, the right direction to go. And you'll find a silver lining. As you take a step away from that worry kind of thinking, that troubled day-to-day, and start to think of possibilities, start to think of opportunities, start to think of brand new ways. Just open up to that kind of thinking. Release. Begin to play.
Finding silver linings, realizing opportunities, seeing goals, dreams coming true, making plans, all of this requires a level of insight and understanding most available when you relax. Be like a grandfather clock in a thunderstorm, with the pendulum swinging gently, tick-tock. And although the wind may rage and the shutters bang against the windows, the grandfather clock just ticks along at the same rate, unaffected. Be like that grandfather clock when you get scared, when the emotional hurricanes roar around you and you're not sure what's going to happen next or what you're going to do. Ask yourself, am I safe right here, right now, in this moment? And you'll find the vast majority of your fear, maybe all of your fear, is in the past and can't hurt you anymore. Or in the future and not likely to ever happen anyway. And right now, you're safe. Be steady, like that grandfather clock in the tornado. And use paradise thinking. Come back to these levels of mind. Listen to this program or another of our programs, all of which have these exercises to help you feel safe and relaxed. And then naturally, there will be an awareness, there will be insight, realization. There's an opportunity. Here's an opportunity. Wow, there may be a silver lining in this after all. In fact, this whole curse may be a blessing in disguise. And then take a risk. Believe in yourself. Trust yourself. Be steady. You don't need to know how you're going to do it, only that you can and you will, because you must. And pull on those leadership qualities to reassure the people around you. Tell them everything's going to be okay. Admit to them if you wish that you're not sure exactly how. but everything is going to be okay. We're going to get through this. We're going to get by. Come together. Work together. Rely on each other as you become more self-reliant.
So don't go pining for some silver lining. A silver lining takes conscious mining. It takes some research and some clear designing. So go clearly finding your silver lining. Go out into the world and find the need and see how it matches your strength. And also go inside and go to the edges, go to the outer lengths of where your mind sees possibilities. Now's the time to dream. Now's the time to make stuff up. Now's the time, it seems, when everything is possible. The opportunities are so clear because people are moving toward this hopefulness, away from all that fear, and people are thinking, yes, it can get better. Yes, the future can be bright. And now's the time to listen for that insight.
So dream a little dream right now. Think of an opportunity that has occurred to you in the past. And maybe you put it off to one side. Maybe you put it on hold for now. Maybe you're letting it simmer on the back burner. Bring it up front. Bring it to mind. Put a little energy into it. Ask yourself, what if? And start thinking about believing in yourself and trusting yourself, respecting yourself and caring enough about yourself to be the person that you know you can be. And then take an action step. Just one. Doesn't have to be a big leap. Could just be a little tiny baby step, but do something today. Resolve that after you open your eyes in just a few moments and come back to the wide awake state, and we conclude this episode of Finding Yourself in Paradise, that you'll do one little thing. Maybe make a to-do list or a goals list. Maybe make a telephone call. Maybe do a Google search, but one little action step in the direction of your dreams, because you see the opportunity here. You see the light at the end of the tunnel.
And does every cloud have a silver lining? Well, we don't know. Maybe so. Maybe not. But many more do than we know. That's for sure. Looking for silver linings when they appear on your radar screen. This is the law of attraction. Take the time to explore. Take the time to consciously be mining and designing your own silver linings. So take a deep breath, reorient yourself to the room that you're in, and keep in mind it only takes one tiny little step to create inertia, momentum, to begin the process. It's a lot easier to keep going than it is to get going. So take that first baby step as you take a deep breath, bring yourself back to wide awake.
Sometimes your rhymes crack me up. Mining and designing silver linings. I was just going to call it silver lining. I'm going to put all that in the title.
Why not? Why not?
So, mining and designing silver linings. That's great. I love it. So, thanks for that, Stephen.
Just came out of somewhere. I have no idea where.
You realized that you found the opportunity. That's what these are for us, an opportunity to share with you. And here's an opportunity that we're helping you to find, to realize, and that's to forward these programs to the people that you know that are looking for them. Like, who did you think of while you were listening to this program, right? Or who reminds you of this whole personal empowerment series when you think about the programs that Steve and I are providing here and why you like them and what you're looking for? Well, share that. Share what you care about. Use the gadget on the focuspassion.com site to send any program you want, as many programs as you want, to as many people as you'd like, as often as you wish, for no additional charge whatsoever. And in that way, your friends find out about focusedpassion.com. That's all you have to do. You don't have to follow up or babysit them and make sure they listen to the program. Just offer it like you send other links, like you forward YouTubes or an article you read, like you tell somebody about a great book or a film that you saw that they just got to see. Well, that's all we're asking you to do with this, because there's solutions here, there's help here.
I hadn't thought, it just occurred to me today that here's one extra birthday present to send to everybody you know. Just send one of these on their birthday. Send an extra gift every time you send a gift to this person. This is for 99 cents a week. You have all these gifts to give to people, and you can give them the right gift. You can give that pessimistic Uncle Harry the program on optimism, and you can give that sister-in-law who's got a kid with ADD the program on that. I mean, this is a great gift item. So for one charge of 99 cents, you can give as many gifts as you want to as many people as you want for as long as you want.
That's why we say changing the world begins with you changing yours. Thanks for listening. Join us next week for our Finding Yourself in Paradise audio series. And as always, be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner. Aloha.